Hi, I'm Jeff Hecker, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jeff.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Oh, excuse me. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Victor, don't fall asleep.
No, I'll try not to.
All right, so today we are discussing the second episode of Season 10 of Stargate SG-1 Morpheus. The Ori Crusade continues and more worlds fall to the Ori. Daniel Jackson determines the gate address to one of the planets that might be the location of the Sangral, and SG-1 plans a mission. Jackson wants Vala to join them, but General Landry is reluctant. He does agree to allow her to have a Psych-Eval in order to be considered eligible to join SG-1. Arriving on the planet Vaganbray, they discover the village is long dead and the villagers' bodies in their beds. They start to feel tired and determine it is due to a deadly parasite on the planet, but they discover the only living animal that they can find, a lizard, seems to resist it. Teal'c has to catch one in order for a cure to be developed, and Mitchell stays behind in a cave. The medical relief team arrives and saves SG-1, and a serum from the lizard is developed. And Daniel also finds a reference to Atlantis, setting up more adventures to come. And while all that's happening, Vala undergoes her Psych-Eval and lie detector test, but it does not go so well. Woolsey arrives and pretends to try to recruit Vala to spy on the SGC in exchange for ensuring her eval is passed. After feeling embarrassed from being exposed in the eval, Vala wants to leave the SGC, but learns she passed the test and becomes a probationary member of the SGC, but not before giving Woolsey some grief. All right, so what did you think of the episode, Lisa?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say I have an apology for Claudia Black and for the writers and showrunners of Stargate, because all these years I have hated on Vala, and I think y'all can sense where I'm going from the last episodes we've done. I don't hate Vala anymore. I actually thought she was the best part of this episode. Great comedic timing. That it was just a lighthearted spot in the episode. It was like how Teal'c had to earn his way onto SG-1, but that was through his like warrior, I will, die for you, and Vala had to do it kind of through comedy and the Psych-Eval. And so I actually really enjoyed watching her trying to, study for the test and make do, and her dealing with Woolsey and the test guy and all that. The sleepiness on the planet, it was fine. I don't want to say anything bad about it. It was a little slow, but again, if this was like SG-1 season 2, or even season 1 for sure, season 2, maybe part of season 3, we'd be like, yeah, that was a great episode. And so it wasn't bad. I think it was a little slower, little kind of a throwback episode to different than what we're used to. And I'm, like I've said, not a real fan of all the Camelot stuff, but I mean, we would have jumped on, I'm just assuming y'all didn't love it. Sorry. We would have jumped on like a parasite that causes you to go to sleep and then kills you. And then what do we do? And we would have loved that a few years ago. So not a bad episode. Just, I think we've come to expect a lot more, and that's kind of sad for them, I guess.
All right, what do you think of the episode, Victor?
Yeah, so watching this, I remembered from, watching this like almost 20 years ago, I remembered the Vala Psych-Eval scenes. Like, those stuck out in my mind. I'd completely forgotten about the sleeping sickness bug. But it is good to see some familiar faces, because we have two guest stars who have been in previous episodes. Robin Mosley, who played Malachi in Window of Opportunity, is back as Dr.
Oh, okay. He looked familiar.
Reimer. Yeah. So there's a lot of, hey, it's that guy moments. And then Ben Ratner as Dr. Hutchinson, who played the studio executive in Wormhole Extreme. And And then there are some other faces from Atlantis, some of the Marines and the medical tech at the end, I believe. So it was really cool seeing them. And I just hope that during season 10, they just keep bringing back their guest stars from like season 4 and 5. And in new roles. So that was cool to see. I like the way they made the village look, because this is our village set, but they, fogged it up. They have some color, correction or color grading to make it look really spooky and eerie. So I like that. The commentary was with Joseph Malazzi and Andy Makita, who directed this one. So it was pretty interesting, some of the behind the scenes stuff, which we'll get into. Let's see what else. I did like the Vala Psych-Eval scenes a lot. They were very funny, and they did put a very sympathetic spin on Vala. So like Lisa, I don't hate her as much as I used to.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll kind of agree. I mean, this episode was fine. I mean, I know I've kind of been the champion for these seasons more so than y'all have. At least remembering them better. And overall, like you said, it was fine. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it really being very similar to older SG-1 episodes, and it really is. Yeah, that slower pace and kind of figuring out the problem. Yeah, and I guess I didn't mind it being a slow paced one, but overall, I mean, I guess it just seemed kind of like a filler episode. At least the part on the planet when they were trying to, they're just trying to find clues to find the Sangral, and I'm assuming it was partially some budget saving to not have a lot of action and ships and stuff, because we just had that and we're gonna have it again pretty soon. So yeah, overall it was fine, but the Vala stuff was really good, and I have liked seeing her character arc progressing from season 9. She started to grow on you and have some kind of develop into that hero role that she does kind of eventually take. So, and this is kind of just the next step of she does try to run away, but I can also, having gone through Psych-Evals for various things, like it is a very intrusive process. And if you've never done one, and especially if you've kind of been on the run like Vala has and living a hard life, it may not be the most fun thing to do. So, but yeah, overall it was okay. So, but yeah, so yeah, we start off with Vala trying to join the team. Well, really, we start off with Daniel finding the references to this planet. So, what did y'all think of his whole kind of? It was kind of fun seeing him get excited about archaeology, because we really haven't seen him do too much of that recently, and that's kind of his whole thing is the archaeology. So, what did y'all think of Daniel's kind of excitement in finding all this information?
Oh, I liked it. I mean, again, we're making some pretty big leaps in logic, but that's the show. You wouldn't get from point A to B without it. He determines that Vagon Bray, I think, is where Morgan Le Fay or Sir Gawain or one of them wound up. And it's kind of misdirection. As you mentioned in the summary, he finds the reference to Atlantis in the books or the town archives, but it's not really clear if Morgan Le Fay really set up on this planet or not, because there's that magical cave with the panel, that runs on electricity that they open up, but the cave doesn't actually go anywhere. There's no mystical cave of wonders or any technology in it, just a lizard. So, it's kind of a little misdirection. I was disappointed that there wasn't, more, ancient technology and stuff on the planet, given that we have a magical door, right? But so just more looking at books, really.
The scene where he runs in the very beginning, he's like, oh,
yeah.
That was very reminiscent of a couple seasons ago. We haven't seen him excited like that in forever. So I love that. But actually what I liked more was when Carter turned to Mitchell and said something like, you think I'm hard to understand, or something like that. And I felt like that was such a great moment. And it's like it brought him into the team fully, like, oh yeah, now you get to experience Daniel being completely loopy or whatever. So that was really nice. I liked that moment. But my eyes glazed over when he starts doing this to this to this to this, because I guess part of my brain went back to like 10th grade English class or something. And I'm like, wait, I've heard that about, like, was that Canterbury Tales, or was that, you're like stuff in the back of your head you haven't thought about in 30, 40 years. And But no, I didn't care.
Yeah, because he's like, yeah, because he's like, we found a reference to this, and if you translate it in Welsh, it's this, but then if you translate it in ancient, it's this. Here's a picture of a sword with ancient writing on it, and through all that, he's able to generate a gate address. Which, I mean, I guess it's good that they don't spend too much time on trying to come up with that explanation. They just, because it's really not what's important in this. It's just getting to the planet to see if they can find the MacGuffin. So, and I did like that Vala was kind of excited to be there too, and she's in the briefing, which was which is interesting because she just came back from the Ori galaxy. They don't, it probably isn't, as we like to say, they're probably not the most secure thing to do because who knows how she's compromised her daughters leading the crusade against the Milky Way galaxy. So they probably are maybe trusting her too much if we're being real, but of course it's a show, so they're Val is a sympathetic character, so, or is becoming more sympathetic, so they're not going to do that. But I did like that she was kind of helping him and like saying, oh, here's the book, and kind of pushing it in, and like she's wanting to be involved, which I thought was nice. Like she wants to come in and start helping, and like really she wants to join the team. She's found that they could kind of be her home, her found family. So
and they did like Daniel going to bat for her with General Landry too, and Landry basically saying, if I recommend to the Pentagon that she be put on SG-1, I'll be responsible for, all the crazy stuff she does. And Daniel's like, yeah, that's right. And he's like, which means that I'll be looking to you to keep her in check. And so I just thought that was a really good turnaround there. Kind of one of those almost a General Hammond moment.
Yeah, I like that they've matured Vala and Daniel past the just constant like sexual innuendos and jumping around and him hating him. I think we talked about that last season, like him just hating her for whatever reason, make it interesting.
You're breathing wrong or whatever.
Yeah, it was so awkward. And I feel like this episode at the beginning, especially, kind of just gave them a natural team. It felt more just, okay, now we're where we could have been last year, but we weren't.
Yeah, and they'll definitely go back to the innuendos and stuff as the season progresses. There's specific ones that I'm thinking of that they do. So that's it's not completely gone, but like you said, I think it was good that they're toning it down because they did want to kind of create more sympathy for her and kind of have her be more serious, less comedy relief. So, but yeah, she's allowed to kind of be take the Psych-Eval, and she's I thought it was funny when she was trying to start preparing for it and looking stuff up on the computer and trying to because of course that's kind of how her whole life has been. Everyone has a game and is trying to get one up on you, so you've got to figure out how you can beat the system. So, but of course it's not really what the Psych-Eval is meant to do. So
yeah, that the scene of her preparing for it, I think was the whole Psych-Eval thing is the best part of the episode, but I really like that one too, where and there's a subtle nod to the movie Blade Runner and the Voight Kampf test in there, where about you're in the desert and you find a turtle on its back, but you don't turn it over, which is how they find out who's a replicant in the movie. But if I'm remembering it correctly, but her reply to that, because I'm also a tortoise, that was Claudia Black ad lib. That wasn't in the script.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she added that in, because there's no answer to the question, but Claudia Black decided to give it an answer. So I thought that was a good ad lib.
I thought it was a good answer. I was like, oh yeah. That would work.
Yeah.
I liked her, the ink blots, and he's like, what do you see? And she's like, loyalty, courage.
Yeah, that was a Martin Garrow addition to the script.
Yeah.
as
how are
Joseph
you feeling
Malazzi.
today?
Yeah.
Instead of saying I'm fine, she gives this like long-winded. I mean, it's like out of a psychology 101 textbook, right?
Yeah.
I've been very enthusiastic to meet him, giving him a hard handshake and
yeah.
And then even better was the lie detector scene where
Yeah.
she dresses up and he compliments her, and then they're taking the baseline readings and they figure out when she's lying, or how to tell she's lying, and then she says, "Oh, you're looking rather dashing," and then it starts ticking like
Yeah.
she's lying, and she just keeps digging herself into a bigger hole, and you can. Yeah, I didn't recognize him at all from that from Wormhole Extreme, but now that you say that, I definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been on Supernatural too. I've seen him in other shows as well, but
And the two of them worked really well together.
yeah.
Like their scenes, they just really bounced off each other well. It was good. And he looked familiar, but I didn't catch it until I looked it up that he was Wormhole Extreme. And then I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and I guess Andy Makita was so proud of these scenes because a lot of the humor and stuff was injected through the direction, his direction of the scenes, that I think he put it on like his director's reel, to showcase his work going forward. So
that's cool.
But they are. He did a really good job with this episode, the look and feel of it, and bringing some humor into it, and kind of letting the actors stretch out and improv a little bit too.
Yeah, and then of course Woolsey comes in to try to, as part of the test, try to.
But we as the audience don't know this. I mean, we think he actually is trying to spy. We're like, well, this is a step back for Woolsey. We thought he was getting cool, but now he's being slimy again.
Mm-hmm. It's Woolsey.
Did y'all remember that part, or did y'all remember that it was kind of a test, or did y'all think he was actually being kind of slimy?
I thought it was just like poor character writing, to be honest. But no, Woolsey's like, but then I remembered that, Joseph Malazzi and Robert Picardo became fast friends, working on the show together. So much so that like when Robert Picardo and even when his family would come into town to Vancouver, they'd, have dinner with Joseph Malazzi. And when Joseph Malazzi went to Los Angeles, he'd have dinner with Robert Picardo and his family. And, Robert Picardo would make him pizzas and stuff. And but yeah, even when he was on our podcast 126 episodes ago, he did mention his friendship with Robert Picardo. And so knowing that, there's a lot more affection for the character. So with that in mind, it makes sense that it was a test.
Yeah, I did remember it, but I wasn't sure if I remembered it or if I was just wishful thinking, right, that it was part of the test. But I was pretty sure it was part of the test. I also thought it was interesting to see Woolsey again, because we've seen quite a bit of Woolsey lately. And I believe the episode of Atlantis that aired the same night also has Woolsey. So like when you watch this back then, and I don't know what year this was, 2006, you had Woolsey on SG-1, and then you turned around and had Woolsey on Atlantis at the same night. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and that kind of gets back to the last, the line in the last SG-1 episode about like, you don't have to deal with Woolsey. It seems like he's here every other week.
Yeah. And I remembered it, but I also know they were, because of course we know Woolsey makes his way to Atlantis at some point. So, they don't want to, make him go back to kind of how he was in the beginning. So, but that was, and of course he gets his comeuppance a little bit at the end when he reveals it was all part of the test. And, Vala goes back to kind of her old, joking innuendo self of, he had some odd requests and that he came on to me, and, everyone knows she's making it up, but they kind of blow Woolsey off. So I thought that was funny.
That was nice.
And that was, and I guess to finish Vala's plot lineup, because she was trying to leave SG-1 or leave the SGC because she thought, she failed the test, but then they reveal it was all a test and you passed, and you're, she wants to join SG-1, but they say, oh, you're a probationary member of the SGC. So she doesn't get the patch yet.
I love the scene where she wants to leave because she's standing in the gate room looking up at the control room and like just yelling at them, ordering them to fire up the Stargate. She's standing on the crates that are in there, which is another Claudia Black edition. She wanted to get up on her soapbox, so to speak. and she's yelling at the gate technician like, "I never liked you," and the poor people in the control room are like, what do you want us to do? You know, you know, and then she has to eat some crow after that because she'll be working with them and they'll be sending her through the gate.
Best part, I mean, really best. Now that we're at the end of the Vala stuff, it was funny because I was watching this and I'm like, I have to apologize because I've been hating on Vala all this time, and at least right now where we are at beginning of season 10, I'm not hating her, so it was nice.
Yeah. And I loved her little thing as her walk off as they're walking off, and she's asking like when she gets her share of the loot, you know, from all the treasures that they'll be pillaging, or if she's a probationary member, she doesn't get her share of the loot yet. But you know, I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, and then and I guess we have the rest of the episode where
one more thing about Vala, something that was interesting from the commentary that Joseph Malazzi was saying is, you know, so it was kind of weird how they brought Vala on for like 6 episodes at the start of season 9 and then like had her gone completely and then brought her back. And a little bit more context was, you know, they brought Claudia Black and Ben Browder in at the same time. And the studio executives were like, I don't know, having 2 like Farscape characters in the same show. We don't want Stargate to turn into Farscape. You know, none of the producers of the show, because they love both the actors, but the network. And so they did the 6 episodes, and then the network executives were like, this is great. Like, how soon can you bring her back? We want her on the show full time. And they're like, well, you know, that was really only a 6 episode thing because you told us that you didn't want her on there, but so they were able to bring her back for this season, and make everybody happy.
Well, it's nice. I didn't watch Farscape a lot, just a teeny tiny bit back then, but it is nice that they brought her in a comedic, we'll say, over the top role, because it's so different than you know, how she was in Farscape. So it was you don't look at her in this show and think of Farscape for me at all.
No,
because she's so different.
Yeah, in Farscape she was almost more of kind of a Teal'c character to some extent, but more, you know, more brash than Teal'c is. But yeah, so I guess we have to go back to the other plot line.
The plot line.
Which is pretty interesting, I think, due to the guest stars. I like it that they have another team there with them, because that's, I mean, you know what's going to happen to the other team. But, and I like that when they get to the planet, again, the village looks different and cool, but the skeletons in the bed, like, they didn't look human skeletons. Those were like alien skeletons, right? They had like bumps on their foreheads and like different features from humans. That's, I mean, I watched it twice, and either that or they were, you know, covered with stuff. But I mean, so I thought that was interesting but I mean, it wouldn't make sense that they weren't human, but the skeletons didn't look, maybe they just weren't really good skeletons. But but yeah, so it's eerie, it's spooky, it's scary. And we go to a cave, and nothing happens in the cave, so they leave the cave and come back. And then they're able to do medical tests very quickly with the equipment they have there. Like, I mean, there is some idea of how much time is progressing, because one guy says, like, yeah, I've been up for 18 hours. And then a little later, another character says, like, I've been up for 40 hours. But, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, we figured out what's wrong with this guy by quickly deducing the melatonin and serotonin levels in his brain. And at the same time, Dr. Reimer was also able to do blood tests on everybody and determine that their white blood count was elevated. So they're just like cranking through these medical tests. I want to know, like, whatever machinery they're using like Theranos technology, you know, from that one startup, or because I have to wait like a week for blood test results. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. People should be using whatever. Yeah, Asgard magic. And at one point, Dr. Reimer, you know, pokes his finger and puts some blood on a slide, you know, to see if this little thing that they catch later will activate. And I guess the actor Robin Mosley actually was poking his finger with like the little, you know, pinprick thing, and had to do it several times. And That was what they mentioned on the commentary. I don't know if that's true, but that might be his real blood that he uses in that scene.
Doesn't seem sanitary.
Well, no, but you probably use different needles. I don't know. That's just what they mentioned on there. So, but I guess that's real method acting there. But he's really good. I like Dr. Reimer. He's very serious and circumspect, and we certainly don't see him at his best because one minute he's has a overproduction of melatonin, which is making him sleepy, and then he takes too many stimulants and has a heart attack and dies. So,
I couldn't get past seeing him as Win of Opportunity. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
What kind of archaeologist carries a weapon? I just kept seeing that
I could still be with her. I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognized him, but I didn't recognize what he was from. And yeah, now that y'all say that, but I think too, I read that the name of the other SG team was a red team. And so when you said they're all going to die, I was like, oh yeah, they're red shirts. I don't know if that's what I read, at least on one of the wikis, too. Cause they were on a planet, I think, inoculating against the Ori plague. So they're kind of one of the special medical teams, or at least more geared for that. So they did have more like equipment and stuff, and they were directed here. And of course, they were already tired from that, and they have to immediately go start dealing with this. But yeah, Daniel's reading the village history, and he finds references to Morgan Le Fay in the cave, and makes that leap of logic that she's probably an ascended being because Merlin's ascended, so she's probably ascended too, and that she took this. The legend goes that she took the weapon from Merlin to hide it, and that's so that's kind of your hook for the next SG-1 episode of finding looking for Morgan Le Fay. But
can I just say again that Morgan Le Fay's cave is very disappointing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. You'd think they'd be like, they open the cave and it looks like something was here, but it's not here anymore. But they really didn't even do that. Like you said, it's just
like a Minecraft cave without the mobs.
Yeah. Why was it special and magical? Exactly. Like,
it
didn't make sense. What were they hiding?
Yeah.
So they couldn't find it the first time, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
I think that's probably what they intended, was like, the weapon was here, or part of the weapon, or something was here related to it, but Morgan took it so that Merlin wouldn't get in trouble or something. That's just my headcanon theory, but yeah, slowly kind of they're starting to fall asleep, and they send, we're sending, red shirt guy number 1 back to the village. Oh, he's not here yet. Oh no. And everyone's falling asleep because like you said, they eventually find out it's this parasite that feeds on
stimulates melatonin production to make you sleepy.
Yeah. And it grows so big that it it makes your brain burst, basically. It causes an aneurysm because it goes from microscopic to like as big as like a beetle kind of a thing, like one of those like big rhino beetles. So
that's creepy.
The original. Yeah, so a couple of writer notes from this was Joe Malazzi apparently wrote like 3 episodes over a 2-week period, like a Christmas break, and this was one of them. And he mentioned something that was really interesting that I hadn't heard before. But at one point, I guess they were thinking of like having Samantha Carter like command the Odyssey and fly back and forth between SG-1 and Atlantis, and so she would kind of be a bridge between SG-1 and Atlantis. And basically at one of the planets she stopped at, they would find the sleeping sickness. And then when that never really came about, they integrated it into the plot here. But the other writers were pretty skeptical. It's like, really, you're going to write an episode where your characters are falling asleep? But he trusted that the cast would be able to kind of make it interesting. And we do get some goofy moments with Daniel where he's like trying to where he's starting to fall asleep and then wakes himself up, or Teal'c will like hit one of the other, team members to wake him up. And apparently as Teal'c was leaving the cave, they actually filmed the sequence where he started to have hallucinations. And we saw that, and they cut that out, but at the end when they're all standing around in Sam's office and they're like, so did any of you, like, did any of the rest of you have hallucinations? And it makes no sense when you're watching it because they're like, who had hallucinations? And they're all talking about it. But that was another thing that they cut out.
What would have made this episode gold really is instead of Teal just hitting like Daniel to wake him up, if he had gotten in his face and said, "You sleep, you die."
Yeah.
Like in Grace. Like
in
that
Grace, yeah.
would have been gold.
Or if he pulled out a super soaker and shot Daniel with it. like in Big Bug episode, the other Big Bug episode.
My kids still walk around and be like, if you're tired, they're like, "You sleep, you die." I'm like,
yeah. That's a good one. I have to remember that one.
I did read online, I don't know if it's true, that they base the parasite and the sleeping thing on an African sleeping sickness. That the parasites through the, what was it? Tsetse fly.
Yeah.
Tsetse fly.
I mean, did you guys not grow up in mortal terror of tsetse flies? Like, I remember as a kid, like tsetse flies were a thing. Like, we knew there weren't any in Michigan, but it was like, oh my gosh, there's this fly that if it bites you, you fall asleep and you never wake up because you have sleeping sickness and you die. And so I mean, and I think a lot of it was driven by, I think there were tsetse flies in the Indiana Jones game for the Atari 2600 that if they like bit you, you would fall asleep. So I think that might have been some of it, but no, like quicksand, tsetse flies.
I was like, quicksand, yes.
Yeah, there were other things that like you would just run into as a kid and you would die.
We were prepared to like how to get out of quicksand, and it's never happened for me.
No,
sorry.
And I've never gotten. I mean, I've been sleepy, but I've never gotten sleepy sickness. So.
Yeah, well, we just have mosquitoes in Texas that have, worry about West Nile and those things. So
yeah, and fire ants.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, they figure out that there's only Teal'c realizes that they don't hear any birds. There's no wildlife that they can see.
Which, how do you know there are birds on every planet?
Yeah.
I mean, did birds evolve on this planet? Were they brought there by the ancients? Are there squirrels and chipmunks? We didn't see any of those either, Teal'c,
But you realize that was a callback to season 1. The
what was that
episode called? The First Commandment, the one where Carter's ex-fiance is like,
yeah.
So it's the same thing, only she said it to Teal'c. There's no birds.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming they did that on purpose, that they flipped the two of them around and had him say it to her instead. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's no wildlife except for a lizard they see running around the cave, and they deduce they have to try to catch it in order to quickly make a serum to save
lizard
everyone.
Juice.
And
yeah,
a pretty convincing CGI lizard too. I mean, done by I think the Effects House Image Engine. For the time and even now, it holds up really well. They were even at one point calling like animal wranglers to say like how much would it cost to get like a lizard out here that can do some cool tricks, but it wouldn't have been able to like do all the stuff that the CG lizard does. And then of course Teal'c catches it in a bag, and that's a Sharper Image dragon toy that they modified to have the tail wag out of the bag like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty funny seeing Teal'c like carry the bag with just the tail sticking out, because as kids you had those kind of toys and you would play with those kinds of things like, oh, it's like a raccoon in a bag, and it's just like the little rolling ball that has the raccoon tail on it.
As a kid, those would kill you too. No, just kidding. But
and we got a couple of fun Mitchell-isms, right?
Yeah, he
made
was
a joke about Texas salad bars, and then Deuce Bigelow.
And then, referring to the lizard as Joe Bob. Yeah.
European Gigolo, which I've never seen, so I have no idea if it's regretful to watch it or not. But
I've never seen any of the Deuce Bigelow movies. But I mean, Rob Schneider wouldn't be where he is today without them, I guess.
So people did see them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the first one was very popular, which is why they made at least one sequel.
Now you're going to make me look that up and see how many of them there are.
Rob Schneider was never on Stargate.
Oh, just two. There were just two of them.
Okay.
1999, the original male gigolo, and 2005, European gigolo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the very contemporaneous, and that was probably a Ben Browder ad lib, although they didn't call it out on the commentary.
Yeah, and then the final SG team arrives just in time to, and they're in their hazmat suits, and they get Carter and Teal'c into the pod while Carter protests that I can't fall asleep, but of course they get there in time to save them and to make the serum from the lizard. So
I really liked that sequence. That was a really good sequence. Yeah. When the medical team arrives and they're in the pods and it all goes to slow-mo as they're carrying, the music for that is really good. Like was this Joel Goldsmith, I think. I get Joel and Jerry Goldsmith confused, but their uncle and nephew, Joel Goldsmith, I think he did a really good job with the music on that, because it just kind of goes into like slow time, and you have like the lights from the helmets and they're lit from the face and they're carrying the coffin, like, isopods, and, a lot of it's seen from the character's point of view. And the music, like I said, is really good in that sequence. So I like that. I personally like that one a lot.
I got a little distracted because they just figured out the whole parasite with the lizard, and then immediately somebody else shows up and puts them in. So it was just the timing for me was very distracting, because you're like, wait a minute. Then you realize, okay, the episode's almost over, so it'll all be okay. Like,
yeah,
we don't have to tell them how to fix it. They already know. It's fine.
And Teal'c wouldn't have made it back with the lizard. Like, I don't think they even knew about the lizard.
So how did the isopod guys just know to show up? And
well, Carter says they were at the cave, and they're like, what cave? And I guess they looked around for a cave, and found the cave, and then they found Teal'c there, and there's like, I'm like, oh no, they're going to let the lizard go. But then one of them says he's holding some kind of an animal, and they're like, okay, they're not going to get rid of the lizard. Yeah.
So they connected dots really fast, is what.
Well, they have to. They're really sharp. They're members of SGC.
That's right.
Yeah, and then they, everyone makes it back, and everyone on SG-1 makes it back, and they regroup in the.
Well, because one of them we don't like. He just fell asleep in the town square, right? So he could be okay.
They never go back to him, do they?
They don't carry him out of the town square. Daniel's just like, presumably he would have, given the timing of when he fell asleep, but I don't know that they make that explicit in the episode.
No. Dude got left behind.
Yep.
But then when we cut to after everybody's okay and they're drinking their coffee and talking about their, like you said, I hadn't realized that they were talking about their hallucinations, but then we don't really see the hallucinations coming into effect. So, and that's where it kind of dovetails with Vala's plot line, and that's pretty much the end of it. And we get the tease, like we said, that of the references to Atlantis and Morgan Le Fay. So that will be coming up in the next SG-1 episode. So, do y'all have any other final thoughts on the episode?
I had to look up why this was called Morpheus, because that made no sense to me. All I could think of was Morpheus from The Matrix, which I don't think had it come out yet? Yes? I don't remember what
I think
year
that was 99.
Yeah.
I think
okay.
Matrix was 99.
So I did look it up. Morpheus was the Greek god of sleep and dreams, which is completely random to me. So,
well, they do get sleepy. It's not Morbius, true. Which is the guy who goes around saying it's Morbin time. But that's a different guy. But no, and we did get some alternate language titles, which I guess the expression is a little different in other languages, but in French we get dans les bras de Morpheus, which is in the arms of Morpheus.
Yeah.
And then in German we got in Morpheus Armen, which is in Morpheus's arms. So I guess the phrase in Morpheus's arms is kind of like you falling asleep as you're being embraced by Morpheus. Because sleep kind of embraces you as you fall asleep, if you've taken your melatonin. And then in Japanese, we got Shi e no Nemuri, which is sleep unto death. So I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, that one works.
Awesome. Well, anything else on this episode?
No, it's not as boring as you might think an episode where the cast falls asleep would be. They break it up with a lot of really good comedy in the middle. So,
and I think they had to have done that on purpose, because I think having Vala and the comedic timing and all of that because otherwise it's pretty dark. I mean, what SG-1 and the red team are going through, it's pretty dramatic, and people are dying, and so I like the way that they juxtapose it next to Vala and her, funniness.
I do like how Dr. Lamb basically sent them a crate full of stimulants with no like guidelines on how to use them. It's not like, here's a packet for each of you, take one of these every 4 hours or something. No, it's just like cartoonishly huge bottles of like dozens of bottles of pills that.
And the first thing one of them does, I hear what it was, like they pulled like a whole handful.
Well, yeah.
Popped it in their mouth.
No, it was one of the red team who said like, I've been up for 40 hours.
Yeah. One of the guys who died.
But yeah, so I don't know, Dr. Lamb, I think you're just a pill pusher. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode of The Secrets of Stargate. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Stargate, including Brent B., Rebecca L., Attila H., Michael C., and Joseph O. Their generous donations make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow this show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or our next at SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of Stargate Atlantis, Misbegotten. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Jeff.
And Victor Lambs, thank you as well.
Thanks, Jeff. And you say I'm hard to understand.
Only sometimes.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm Jeff Hecker. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?